In this video, we are going to talk about how to visually organize all of the objects in your photographs. There are things called elements of design and principles of design. There are a whole lot of them, but we are going to talk about 4 elements: line, shape, texture, and positive and negative space, and 2 of the principles: repetition and contrast. So lines can be a great thing to include in your photographs. There are so many lines in the world. There are thick and thin, wavy, dotted, fuzzy, dashed, all kinds of lines out there in the world. And they can be center stage in your photographs. So if you treat taking photos like a scavenger hunt, you look around the world and you try to see someplace where lines are really important. To the point that when you take a photo of lines, someone could look at that picture and say, wow, that's really a photo about lines. So in this picture down here, we have some roots kind of going through snow that create very strong lines against the snow. And over here, this was taken after Hurricane Katrina from the air. We have a thick horizontal line, which is an old road. We have the repetition of all these vertical lines, which is the old railway track. And this was probably a power line. So we have several different kinds of lines in this composition. Shapes are also very important in photographs. We can have geometric shapes or we can have organic shapes. Geometric shapes would be things like rectangles, triangles, circles, parallelograms, things that follow rules set up by human beings. All right, so here we have several different kinds of geometric shapes creating a very strong composition. Over here, we have organic shapes. Now, if you think about organic food, what does that mean? It means natural food, not man-made, not used with man-made pesticides or not grown with man-made pesticides. So over here, we have these very irregular shapes that we find in nature. So when I look at this photo, I say, wow, that's really a picture where shapes are a very important thing. So if you look at these 2 images, which one is more organic and which one emphasizes more geometric shapes? Texture is also an important element of design. If we look at this photo by Edward Weston, we see that this lettuce leaf is filled with beautiful texture. Now, we talked about light and shadows in the past. Having directional light, even on something as plain as a leaf of lettuce, can really highlight the texture and make it more important in the photograph. Here we have 2 or maybe even 3 different textures going on. We have the undulating rock of this cliff. We have these small gritty pebbles, and then we have the smooth water. Here we have some more types of texture, so from the cactus and from the peeling paint, because everywhere you look, there's texture all around you. Some of it may be fairly boring, like the top of a table, but some of it might be really interesting. So again, like a scavenger hunt, look at the world around you and try to find the most interesting texture you can. The next element of design is positive and negative space. The actual things in your photo, so these overpasses, are positive space. The negative space is the space between them. It's kind of those shapes. It's these shapes that are created, the shapes that are created in the background. And if you have interesting negative space, it helps to create an interesting composition that your viewer will take more time to look at and will be more interesting to the viewer. So this would be all the negative space. If we look here, the positive space is the buildings and the wires, and the negative space are these interesting shapes that are created in the background. And here, this is this interesting space between these two rocks. Even in this picture, though it's just a rug on the ground and the subjects are these two dogs, we have these interesting shapes that are created over here between the objects, between the dogs. It kind of activates the space. If you have an object just floating in the middle of nothingness, that's kind of considered leftover space. But when you cut up that background into interesting shapes, it's called activated space. Repetition is the first principle that we're going to talk about, where you can repeat lines, you could repeat shapes, you could repeat colors or textures or something in order to create a feeling of rhythm. It can be very regular rhythm, such as these two images. So going back and forth, or this just goes all in a row. Here again, this is somewhat regular rhythm. And here as well, repeating these piers. Or it can have a more disjointed feeling of rhythm. You can repeat things, but they don't have to be in order. If we look at this picture taken after Hurricane Katrina again, we do have things that are repeated. They're all vehicles. They are all rectangular. However, they are pointed different ways, and they are different sizes and different colors. But still, there is repetition. Now, shadow, which we've talked about before, and of course, positive and negative space, can also be repeated. So we can see that in this image. So when you're looking for repetition, again, in that scavenger hunt in the world, look for things where something is repeated in terms of color, shape, size, direction, positive, negative space, line, shape, all of those types of things. Contrast is the last principle that we're going to talk about today. And that's when you have opposites in terms of one of those things we've been talking about, such as line. So here we have horizontal and vertical line, changing the direction. Here we have two very different kinds of texture next to each other, two different kinds of visual opposites. You can have a conceptual opposite as well. So if we look here, take a look, try and figure out what it is. And maybe you thought, well, oh, a hammock is from the summer, the snow is from the winter. This is a summer-winter contrast. There's several other kinds of contrasts that appear in this photo as well. Look at this photo and think about the kinds of contrast we see. This is a table leg outside. Here's some grass and some plants and bushes over here. So think about this, and we will talk about this in our next class. So your assignment that will be due on the due date is that you have to turn in 6 photos. One that is really about line, one that's very much about shape, one about texture, one where positive and negative space is the most important thing, one where repetition is the most important thing, and one where contrast is the most important thing. Now, when you take a picture of shape, there might be some lines in it, there's going to be texture in it, things in the world have texture, but you still want one picture for each of those 6 things where that is the most important thing in the image. So make sure you look at the class rubric on highschoolphoto.org or in Google Classroom. Your photo should have good lighting, have at least one area in sharp focus, don't have motion blur, so don't move your camera around, keep it nice and steady. There shouldn't be any noise. You should have a nice full range of tones, whether it's black and white or color. And don't forget about all the things we talked about in terms of active choices and angles and distance and timing and everything else. Make sure there's no clutter or distracting objects in your photos, and try to take pictures of things that are really out in the world. Don't just go up to a piece of art that already exists. Don't go up to just the pattern on your sofa or a picture on the wall or a poster or something that someone else designed to have positive and negative space. Try to find a scene that shows these 6 things that we're looking at in this assignment. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'm here for you.